The Games BAFTAs. With us, Lucy James and Holly Nielsen, our games experts. Now the ceremony isn't starting just yet, so we're going to have a little chat about a few things, the games industry, the games that are up for awards tonight. But just give us an overview, how big a deal is a night like tonight?
I think the BAFTAs gives gaming a lot of legitimacy. It was a award ceremony that was originally, I think, the Interactive Entertainment Awards, and now it's got BAFTA's backing. BAFTA Incredible are just finding games developers and bringing them together, putting on events and being more inclusive, and it makes the British games industry, as I said, more legitimate, but also like fun to be in. And it's always nice to get dressed up and have a night out, but it also does a really good job of highlighting and celebrating up and coming and well-established British game developers.
It's brilliant in terms of, it's a general punter on the street. If you see BAFTA Games, you recognise the BAFTA name. It really helps to kind of sell games as a kind of industry, as well as to people who kind of know it. People not knowing it and coming in, it sounds kind of more impressive. And as you said, it kind of having an event like this and kind of having, everyone dress up, it kind of feels it does bring a kind of
I feel like there's a lot of excitement, and actually every year I feel like it's becoming more significant and getting a bit more exciting. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's brilliant coming along and seeing people, and you spot famous faces and it's a very exciting.
But it's a bit different to other kind of entertainment award ceremonies, isn't it? Because it's not quite so focused on who's wearing what or who's dating who. Do you find that as well?
Yes. It's very much focused on, obviously you get the big names, like occasionally you get the Hideo Kojima or the Ken Levine will come, but also at the end of the day people are there just to celebrate the games, which is quite nice because, especially in public perception, video games, while it's still a huge industry that makes so much money and it's an art form, it's beautiful stuff that gets produced, a lot of people still dismiss it. But at nights like this, it's a time where we can all get together and properly celebrate it for what it is.
Yeah, because we don't have that real cult of celebrity in games yet. As you said, there are still faces you'll recognise, but there's not the kind of gossip in the same way. And I think it's nice because it means there's focus on the actual games and the developers that create them.
Do you think that's coming though? Do you think as it grows, you're going to have
it's almost a natural... I don't want to say a natural progression, but kind of is. As more people kind of pay attention, then,
the names will surface. It's also quite strange because the people who end up getting like the Fellowship Awards tonight is John Carmack from id Software, previous recipients like Ken Levine. They're all in their 40s or early 50s, so it doesn't really feel like a lifetime because we're such a new entertainment
such a young industry.
Do you feel like there's still a little bit of snobbery?
Yes.
From outsiders who maybe don't play games or they just don't get it and they still think it's this niche for just young people or teenagers?
Yes.
Because every year I feel like I interview guests and I ask them that question, but I wonder if one day someone's going to say to me, no, what are you talking about? It's not like that at all.
That's the dream.
The thing is, it's so much more popular than people kind of realise. Playing Candy Crush on your phone while you're on the tube counts as gaming. Playing Facebook games counts as gaming. Having a go on the Wii with your kids or whatever, it counts as gaming.
Like everyone has some experience of games nowadays, and whether or not you kind of associate that with the gaming industry, it's kind of growing. It's getting there. There's still a few hurdles, but I feel like kind of the legitimacy and people kind of paying a bit more respect is kind of getting there.
So many more careers in gaming as well. Right, now you mentioned the actual games coming up tonight. There are obviously lots of categories tonight. Let's just talk about best game.
Okay.
So I've got them up here on my phone. So in this category we've got Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, Fallout 4, Life is Strange, Metal Gear Solid 5, Rocket League and The Witcher 3. Right, what are you expecting?
I expect Witcher to take it.
I'm thinking Witcher will take it. I think Witcher will have a pretty strong presence at these awards.
So Witcher is it's a Polish series of games that just sort of exploded. Witcher 2 exploded when it came to console, it came to Xbox 360, and Witcher 3 just, as soon as it was revealed, it's this great big huge open world. You play as this monster hunter and they just really showcase all these incredible big huge monsters that you had to fight, big huge boss fights, a very interesting and full world full of all these strange characters and stories. And there's one particular quest line, the Bloody Baron, which everyone sort of managed to resonate with in some sort of way. It's a very memorable quest and it's a very memorable game, and it's the music, how it looks as well.
They've really brought a kind of maturity to the Western fantasy RPG, so they've kind of brought a kind of Eastern European kind of folk tale, fairy tale aspect to it, and it's really interesting what they've done. They deserve a lot of credit for the world that they managed to create.
So you both like playing Witcher 3 then? Yes. So I'm getting a sense that not only do you think it's going to win, but you're actually backing it.
I want it to sweep
There are a few good ones though. Like there's the kind of small ones like Rocket League. No one would really have expected that last year.
If you told me that one of my favourite games from last year would have been a football car game, I don't know what I would have told you, but that was the reality. Because Rocket League is fantastic.
It is a lot of fun, and it's literally a game. It's so easy to pick up. It's a game where the footballers are replaced with cars, and that's it. And it's brilliant.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun, and you can play it by yourself, but it's not as good. If you go online with it, the best bit about it is you don't really get people sort of griefing or sort of yelling, but you do have a chat box in the corner, and you have pre-programmed things that you can say. So sometimes you'll just get people being really sarcastic with it, just really funny, you know, like if you let a goal in.
Yeah, there's a nice community around it. It doesn't have that kind of, you know, the kind of love online gaming sometimes can be a little bit hostile, but it feels a lot more welcoming and just a bit more fun.
And Psyonix have done a really good job of sort of integrating famous sort of brands and things. So like if you're a big fan of YouTube or people like Rooster Teeth, these online content creators, you can have little flags to put on your car. So they've done a really good job of sort of finding out they have a community and making sure that they connect with it.
All right, so let's talk about Fallout 4.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Didn't live up to the hype.
It had. I love Fallout 4, and Fallout is one of my favourite series. Yeah. And I have a place in my heart for Bethesda Games. Bethesda who developed the game, but it's just when you play a game like The Witcher 3, they're very different. They're both RPGs, so role-playing games, but they're very different. And The Witcher was just so polished down to kind of every detail.
Okay.
And it feels like perhaps Fallout just doesn't live up to the hype that was around it before it came out and to other games that came out.
It had an incredible announcement. So Skyrim achieved a sort of unnatural level of longevity. It was incredibly popular, and it's still really popular now. And so...
What's up for best game?
Fallout. I was talking about Skyrim, sorry. But so Fallout would be the next game, so obviously a big hurdle to beat. And when it was announced, the hype was insane, and they did a very clever job of not showing off a lot of it. But
they kept their cards very close to their chest for a long time.
And so when you did play it, it was what you expected. It looked how it played how you felt it would. But in the end, it just kind of felt a bit, I don't know, it didn't have the magic of Skyrim.
I think there's kind of, because Bethesda has to do that. They're a fairly small studio, and they only bring out a game, once every few years. So they have to make a lot of money back on these games. And I feel like they have done incredibly well. Fallout 4 has sold more than Skyrim, I believe, now. It took over...
Probably.
Yeah, it took over Skyrim's kind of initial release. So they've done that. But whether or not it deserves the best game award at the BAFTAs...
Oh, really? You're going to be eating your words if it wins.
I know.
Yeah, I know. This is where we're going to be really embarrassed at the end of the night and be like, oh yeah, it was
What about Life is Strange?
I love it.
Yeah.
It has a very special place in my heart. It's sort of like an indie, it feels like an indie movie. And it has a great soundtrack to back it up, and it has relatable characters.
It has brilliant writing.
Yeah.
And what about Everybody's Gone to the Rapture? Up for 10 nominations.
Yeah, that's incredible.
We were talking about this earlier. We both expect it to do incredibly well.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the bonus because it is a British game in possibly the most British setting ever, in that it's a small village in Shropshire.
Yeah.
So we
Very
really
can get much
it's
more
kind of
British than that,
classic.
can't we?
It is pretty much classic, and it was a brilliant game. And I think it took people by surprise, and how successful it was again took people by surprise. It's a bit like Rocket League, and the fact that if you tried to explain to us last year or the year before if we'd be here now, we'd be kind of like, really? But it's brilliant.
And Metal Gear Solid 5.
So Metal Gear.
No.
No. Metal Gear is brilliant, but the ending didn't. I mean, I don't want to spoil the ending, like if you haven't played or anything, but the ending was kind of really well regarded as just being unfinished and just sort of rushed out the door. And Konami there was a lot of changeover with regards to the team. They had a very key member of staff leaving, and there was a lot of controversy about it. The game itself, like the core elements and the mechanics, are absolutely brilliant. It is the best stealth game I've ever played. But that ending.
The mechanics and the AI in that game are incredible, and at its very core, it is, it should do incredibly well. However, the last third of the game did feel incredibly rushed, didn't feel as polished. I think that will put a lot of people off.
Yeah.
What about games that are coming up? Like, what do you think we'll be talking about next year? Any games that you know are in development that you're looking forward to?
I think Dishonored 2 we'll probably be talking about.
Overwatch. Yeah.
Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Doom.
Oh, yeah, Doom.
I have a soft spot for Doom. And also with John Carmack receiving the Fellowship Award tonight, that's quite apt. I think Doom will do well.
Yeah.
What else is coming out this year? Final Fantasy 15.
Yes, the Final Fantasy will be getting a lot of... I mean, they've really pushed it very hard, so...
It's taken a long time to get there.
Exactly. It's a game that's been a long, it's been years.
And 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years, that's a ridiculous amount of time. That's 10 years of expectations to live up to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll have
Pressure.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think Uncharted's going to do well because it's like the final... It's. I mean, The Last of Us, which was Naughty Dog's previous game, cleaned up after a couple of years ago, and the development team, a lot of them worked on The Last of Us, and they said they brought a lot of lessons, and they're sort of making Uncharted more adult, I guess, but still fun, and it's going to look... From what I've seen, it looks incredible.
Okay. Ladies, I'm conscious of the time. We've kept you for more than 10 minutes now. Thank you for doing our Sky News Facebook Live with us. We better go and keep an eye on what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.